Hello everyone, let me just grab that and look at here. Okay, today I am making a mug. I didn't get any footage of me gluing up this monstrosity, but here I am taking it out of clamps. And I got the clamping calls on there, and look, it's a box, or it's a cube. It's a cube of stuff. Now this is my first time using a lathe, so just shut up, okay? I'm learning. I learn by doing. What is that, like a kinesthetic learner, some crap? I don't know. Anyways, here I am putting this thing in my lathe. The lathe that I have is actually from a friend of mine who will actually be receiving this mug. He bought me the lathe, so I make him the first thing. Anyways, here I am. I got my big-ass gouge and... oh, crap. Yep. Well, okay, that might not work. So, let me go make this more circle-y. Just gonna lop off a few corners here. And, of course, it doesn't go deep enough. Let's cut it off on the other side and then rinse, repeat. Alright, so now it's a little more cylindrical. Put this back in the lathe with a really close-up shot. Just, you can see all that glue. Doesn't that look great? Yeah. Anyways, it's kind of a sandwich of some walnut and oak and plywood, because I just thought that'd look cool. Alright, now I'm using my rough gouge, and you can just watch. As I mentioned before, this is my first time ever lathing anything, so just, yeah, yeah, just shut up. Anyways, most of what I'm doing is what you don't do, I've learned. I'm kind of using this rough gouge poorly. I'm not using the bevel correctly. I'm not supporting it correctly, but I am getting the job done eventually. What I'm trying to say is don't do what I'm doing. Don't use this as an example of what to do. Just don't. Don't do it. So now I'm just taking this over to the table saw and cleaning up the edges. And if you listen closely, it sounds like at this speed you're tuning into some weird AM/FM radio thing, adjusting the dial. Now I'm cutting some other pieces that I'm going to sandwich onto my cylinder. Made of some more walnut and some sapele that I used in a board game table, which I have no footage of, but if you want to see what it looks like, it'll be up on my website. I'll put it there, just as pictures, and knotwisetavern.com. Just go look at it. It's right there. So here I am, making a sandwich. Probably doesn't taste very good. And it looks kind of weird. Now I'm going to struggle with clamps for like 5 hours. And flip. Now it's out of frame, so you can't see what I'm doing, but I'm just adding more clamps, so... Should we jump ahead? Obviously now I'm just declamping the thing that I glued up just moments ago, and now I think it's a good idea to cut off some of these hard square edges. So that's what I'm going to do, and then I can start turning the thing again. Here we go. Cool. Now it's all roundish. Back into the lathe. Nice and tight. Clamp everything down and get spinny. Again, I'm using the rough gouge incorrectly, and it's catching, and I didn't get the headstock nail piece thing fully into the mug, so it's sometimes if it'll catch, if I put too much pressure, it'll just spin the headstock, but the piece will stop moving, so that's no fun. I figured out that you just take it out and pound it into the piece later on future projects. But anyways, lathe. Now here we are. Just I've switched over to now it's in a like a 4-way chuck thing, and I'm using Forstner bits to kind of core out the middle, because you can't really drink out of a solid cylinder of wood unless it's hollow. So I'm making it hollow. This is sped up like 1,000 times, so you think that Forstner bit's going in slow now. Just imagine if this were real time. Just switching to bigger bits. Even bigger bits. Ooh, that one's spicy. That's a lot of dust. Alright, now that I've made a sufficient enough sized hole, don't do this. Essentially, in my turning tools, I don't have a bowl gouge at this moment. I do now. So I'm using a spindle gouge and a rough gouge and some other gouges, and none of it's really supposed to be for this purpose, so it keeps catching and launching the thing out where it's off center. Basically, I left the piece that you clamp into the chuck a little too thin, so it's not in there too tight. It's a learning experience, alright? Just, yeah. There's a bowl scraper. Using it incorrectly. Basically just using all the tools I have to hollow out this damn thing. Still hollowing. Nice shot of my hand. And my watch getting all dusty. Measuring depth. Continuing scraping. And... I should just label this what not to do on a lathe. Yeah, there's that nice scar on my knuckle. Ask me about that sometime. So I'm finally starting to make some headway here. It's getting closer to the thickness that I'd like. I don't even have a pair of calipers to determine thickness at this point. Again, I do now. It's just my first time, guys. Gee. More hand shots. Yep. Rough gouge. It caught. Dislodged. Reseated. Back at it again. Alright, enough with all those. Now I'm just going to sand the inside with this drum thing I got for my drill. Now I'm doing it with my hand. Just getting it pretty smooth in there. It's actually down to a pretty good thickness, so I am okay with it. Good shoulder shot. Alright, now let's go back to doing some stuff on the outside. Which was a mistake. The outside was already pretty good. Then I tried my hand at this scraper thing, and I made a boo-boo.
That sucks.
Just chipped a chunk right off. Now I have it glued back in. This is sometime later, so... It's glued in. I think the shape is good enough, so I'm just sanding the crap out of it. Giving it a little moisture, letting it dry, pop the grain, sand it some more. Okay, now I want to make all my mistakes be fixed with magic. I'm using some green magic this time. I'm just gonna mix it up here. Plop, plop, stir, stir, plop, stir, dish, 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 stir, spin, dish, stir, plop, stir, 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 more stirring, and apply. So this green magic here, it's just gonna go into those holes and hopefully when this is all said and dry and done, look really cool. Now I got this little turner thing because I made some mugs in the past, and It works really well for keeping a nice even coat of epoxy. I mean magic. So now that it's dry, it's back onto the lathe and more sanding. Starting to look pretty good. Sand the inside some more. I have fat hands and sticking my hands in there is a tiny hole and it starts to burn a little. Just don't touch the edges. A little more sanding. Okay, now we're back onto this little turning thing here. Just applying some epoxy to the, magic to the outside and the inside. And we'll let that cure. Look, it's cured. And now I'm applying some polish. So I sanded it down. I left that part out because that was a hell of a lot of sanding. Up to about a 3,000 grit, I think is where I went. And now I got this polish stuff that I'm using my Dremel to buff in with a buff pad. And it looks really nice. Took down that super high gloss that is still on the inside, which is fine for the inside, but I kind of want to bring it down a little bit on the outside, and this polish does just that. It's not a super gloss, it's just a gloss. Buff, buff, buff. Here we go, buffing away. And more buffing with polish. Buff, buff, buff. Alright, so now that we got all that buffed and whatnot, there's this thing on the bottom. But first, a handle. So every good coffee cup needs a handle. Also, the epoxy I'm using is food grade. They have an FDA report on their website and whatnot, and they did tests with temperature to see what kind of leakage? No. Seepage? Leaching, that's the word. What kind of leaching their epoxy did into hot materials. It looks like it handles liquids up to just around 200 degrees, maybe up to 220. But considering if it could go to 220, coffee's good right at about 200 or just under, and most tea is under that as well, so this should be fine for the hot stuff. I've let him know of these warnings. It is at his own risk to consume really hot things out of his mug. Him being the guy that I give this to, guy that bought me the lathe. That guy. Yeah, there we go. Smart me. Flip the clamp around. There we go. Now I can get in there a little better. Flip it over. Struggle. Flip. All right. New angle. Just cutting out more material so that I can take this to the sander and start to get it a little more cleaner shape. Also, the amount of time and learning that this mug took me, if I were to charge my real rate for like furniture and stuff, this mug would have taken me like 350. It would have cost $350. So, good thing it was a gift. And no, the quality is not worth $350. There's just a lot of learning. Hey, look, more sanding. Alright, so now I'm using my router table. Now, really don't do this. This was really stupid, and honestly I was kind of crapping in my pants while I was doing this. Just giving a round over here. And that happened. It's okay, I can fix it. Just a little wood and CA glue and should be good to go. Which is what I do. I put some wood glue in there and use CA glue with some accelerant to kind of clamp it together. And it's done. Okay, now I'm just gonna use this flush trim saw and cut off that little nubbins that's on the butt. Eventually. And yay, I got it. Okay. Now, to kind of sand and conify the bottom, because that's what you do with cups. You need to have a concave bottom, so that way it only sits on the rim, which makes it a little more stable. So we tip over. So I'll just use my Dremel, a little tiny. So off camera, I kind of sanded down some spots to attach the handle with some wood glue and CA glue. I was in a rush. This was for his birthday. And I did do one more coat of epoxy over the handle and the bottom as well. Just to get this in a rush for a deadline, I couldn't record it. But anyways, now that you've come on this journey with me of making my very first lathe project, let me remind you of some things that you should not do. What the? And now, some sweet final shots. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe, like, everything, comment, share with friends. Bye.